Shabbat Shalom, friends. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Nai, 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 nai. Nai, nai, nai. Nai, 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 nai. Nai, 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 nai. Nai, nai, nai. Nai, 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 nai. Join me from home. Nai, 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 nai. Nai, 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 nai. Nai, 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 nai. Nai, 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 nai. Nai, nai, nai. Nai, 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 nai. Nai, 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 nai. Nai, nai, nai. Nai, 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 nai. Nai, 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 nai. Nai, nai, nai. Nai, 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 nai.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. It's so good to see you. So you're gonna get an exciting announcement in your email, probably either Sunday or Monday, saying that this is our last only virtual Friday night service when the weather is nice. So starting next week, we are going to be having hybrid services in the way that we do on Saturday morning, where one of us will be leading services outside for a group of getting about 30 of you, and the other will be here, and you're going to have a big television screen for those who are there in person, and for those who are there online, you're going to be able to see the other person leading. And that way, if you feel comfortable being in person, we can begin to gather outside in a safe way. So we're really excited about this, and but this is our very last Shabbat where it's going to be like this when the weather is nice. When it rains, by the way, will be like this, of course. And so we move now into the beginning of our services. And so we usher in Shabbat formally with the lighting of our candles. And I'm going to call Brooke and her family to this screen. And as they're doing it, I'm going to invite us to open up our prayer book. We'll be putting it into the chat very shortly. We're going to be beginning on page number 2 in our prayer book, page number 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tivanu l'had l'kner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Elo.
We should light the candles probably.
Oh, yeah. Just light it with that. Okay.
We're going to turn to page number 5 for Kiddush, whenever you're ready.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei puri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinilanu zikaron lema'aseh b'reishit ki hum yom tehillah lemikra'e kodesh zecher libziat mitzrayim kivanu baharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'achava uvratzon hinhaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen.
Amen. L'chaim, yishar kochach.
Yes, in the chat, write to Olivia, let her know how wonderful she did. wish her luck tomorrow, and can't wait to not only hear you chant Torah and Haftarah, but you've got a really powerful Devar Torah that I hope that we'll all get a chance to experience. So, right to Olivia, wish her congratulations. As together, we're going to turn to page number 20, and we're going to move into L'chadodi.
נקבלה ידי לך דודי לקראת קלה יאללה בני שבת נקבלה שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד ישמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתחילה לך דודי לקראת קלה יאללה פני שבת נקבלה ידי לך דודי לקראת קלה יאללה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף נעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת קלה יאללה פני שבת נקבלה ידי לך דודי לקראת קלה יאללה פני שבת נקבלה verse 5 התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי קראת קלה יאללה פני שבת נקבלה ידי לך דודי קראת קלה יאללה פני שבת rise if you are able בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה וצהולה תוך אמוני עמם סגולה בואי חלה everyone לך דודי לקראת קלה יאללה פני שבת נקבלה ידי לך דודי לקראת קלה יאללה פני שבת
We remain standing as we turn to page 28 for the Baruch Hu. We're seated together. So every single Shabbat, we get a chance on the lucky Shabbats, which are most of them, to see a piece of art from a member of our congregation and use it as a way to kind of bolster a prayer. And so a lot of our art has dealt with nature. A lot of our art has dealt with the interplay between light and dark. And both of them are major themes of Ma'ariv Aravim, the prayer that normally comes now. And so we're blessed to have any number of artists. And this week, I want to show you an image from David Fishbein. So we can put this up here. David is a really talented visual artist, mostly around photography. And I want to let, for a minute, this art speak for itself before we move into the Chatima of the prayer. So David sent this to me a little while ago, and I find the colors and the interplay and the reflection to be particularly evocative. And so we're going to take a moment and give you a chance to look at this art and to talk about what about this art specifically speaks to you as well. And so why don't we take a moment, give you a chance to do that, and then we'll move into the Chatima.
It's sort of an amazing miracle how many incredibly gifted artists we have at Ner Tamid. It's just like this endless beauty each week. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Aravim.
So keep putting your comments in. I find, by the way, this is a gift to the artist to find how people get their art when they see. As together we move into our next page in Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו וקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו והם נגד יומם ולילה יומם ולילה ואהבתך לתסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. We continue together on page 36. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי ויתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
So, as we have each week, the comments, and you should see, are beautiful. I'm sure, David, you're looking at them, about what the art that we showed, what David's art evoked in all of us. A good piece of liturgy, a good piece of poetry should do the same thing. It should allow you to tap into something inside of yourself, something that you don't often see, something that lies dormant or vacant. And so as I read this poem, which is going to move into Mi Chamocha, I want to invite you, as we are singing Mi Chamocha, to see what kind of lied dormant for you and what comes out in these words, the words not only about Mi Chamocha, but the words of Mi Chamocha that are sung by the Israelites as they sang the sea, and in the joyous melody that Cantor Greenberg will use. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect. The song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children in the generations to come. A song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song at peace. We look in the facing page, page 40, Mi Chamocha.
We sing together, Mi Chamocha Bailim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Nedar Bakodesh, Mi Chamocha Bailim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Nedar Bakodesh, Nora, Nora Tehilot, כי ודע אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We're on page number 43. Give us a place to rest, Adonai. Bring us into the shelter and the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth, and return us as we prepare to return. Spread over us your shelter of peace over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 44.
ומלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג שבת ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג שבת מקדשי שבי שבת כולם ישביעו ויתענגו מטובך שבת ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי שבת וקורא עונג שבת ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי שבת וקורא עונג שבת רצית בו וקידשת שבת חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת ישמחו למלכותך שומרי שבת וקורא עונג שבת shlishi Shabbat. One more time. Yismechu v'malechutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei orei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
In a moment, we're going to turn to page 46, and after this opening meditation, asking God to open up our lips, we'll move in silence through the Amidah through page number 64. You can pray either the traditional words on the page or the words in your heart as we move forward, and I'll invite us to rise together now as we move into page 46.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. As you complete your personal prayer, you can just let these sounds wash over you, or you can open your heart to praying this text again. Ose shalom bimroma, hu yase shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the oneness who makes peace possible fill us with hope and let us say amen. May the oneness who makes peace possible fill us with hope, fill us with hope, and let us say amen. Amen. Amen.
So as we do each week, we pause for a moment to think of those who are ill and who are in need of healing, who are in need of a refuah shlema, complete healing of body, mind, soul, and spirit. So if you've got someone that you're thinking about now, I'll invite you to put their name into the chat. And in a moment, we're going to see the scrolling names of those in our community that we are especially thinking about. Now, each week we've got different members of our community who chant and that we interweave the sound through. And as you've been noticing, it's been the same voice week after week for the past few weeks because we've exhausted a few of our members who are musical, and we actually moved on to the artistic ones, which is why we chose to begin showing those pictures. And if you're wondering who that voice is, we're blessed each week to have Ronnie Pressman to chant that prayer for us. And so I want to call that video now to the screen as we turn to page 253 from Mi Sheberach.
Mikor habracha v'imotenu, may the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu, mikor habracha le'avotenu, bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
So each and every time we pray as well, from Passover until Shavuot, we count the days. And so I'll put into the chat the link to the page in the prayer book that we're going to. We're going to go to page 278. As together we count what is called the days of the Omer. Hopefully most of you or all of you got in your mailbox an actual calendar that you can follow. Each day has a certain kind of theme to it. Each week has a theme, and each day has a theme, so that you might find, for example, that one day is when love meets compassion, and another day might be when beauty meets justice. And so as we are moving throughout the course of the month, feel free each day to kind of reflect on a question that Kinter Greenberg and Ronnie Pressman put together for you as a way to acknowledge what this day means to you. But we count each and every day. And so today is no different. It will count together. Again, we're on page 278. Hineni muchanu mizaman l'kayem et mitzvah aseh shel sfirat ha'omer. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. And we say together the blessing, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivenu al sfirat ha'omer. And we count today. Hayom shlosha asar yom shehem shivua echad v'shisha yamim la'omer. Today is 13 days, which is 1 week and 6 days of the Omer. So once again, Shabbat Shalom. So this week's portion, which Olivia is going to talk much more about tomorrow, deals with any number of things. In fact, there are kind of 3 major themes that fall in the first 3 chapters of the portion. In the first chapter, we've just spent weeks and weeks and weeks reading about this Mishkan, this home for God. And we are told that finally, after so many weeks, the people consecrate that Mishkan. They make it their own. So on the 8th day after the Mishkan is built, the people come together, they make sacrifices, and kind of enact the sacrificial cult that will become the Jewish people's main way of worship from that point in the Torah on through the year 70 CE when the temple is destroyed. Then in the next chapter, as Olivia is going to teach about, an accident happens. and Aaron, the high priest's 2 sons, Nadav and Avihu, pass away for some strange reason. They're eaten up by the fire that they're offering to God, and then there's this kind of aftermath conversation, and Olivia's going to process kind of what went on. So I invite you to come to services and to see what she has to say. Then, chapter 11, which is a chapter I want to talk a little bit about, deals with the laws of Kashrut. Now, many of us have just finished what is, for some of us who don't keep kosher in the yearly sense, the most consequentially important piece of keeping kosher for you, which is giving something up for Passover. Many of us chose not to eat bread. Others chose not to eat rice. Some of us chose not to eat beans. Some of us go to the extreme and read every label and make sure that everything is okay. Because there's real power in choosing what you are going to eat. There's power in choosing what goes into your body. Now, I want to speak about one specific aspect of keeping kosher, and I want to kind of relate it to our lives. Because as I was raised, and I'm sure many of you were raised, there are kind of levels of keeping kosher. Now, if you're Orthodox, there aren't really levels. There's just keeping kosher or not keeping kosher. But whenever I work with conversion students, the first thing I tell those conversion students, and by the way, I'll tell confirmation students this, or B'nai Mitzvah students who want to play around with keeping kosher, is that there's kind of a high treif, right? There's pork and shellfish. And that's kind of, when people tend to keep kosher, that's the first thing they give up. It was the first thing I gave up. And then you kind of move into, well, maybe I should not eat some of the other non-kosher animals. Because, by the way, there's a whole list of birds you're not supposed to eat and things like that. Ostrich being one. I remember when I was sure that I was keeping kosher, I accidentally ate an ostrich burger, and I was told by a friend that that's actually one of the 30 birds you're not supposed to eat. The kind of next phase down is usually those who decide not to mix milk and meat, and then they'll eat a hamburger out, but they won't eat a cheeseburger out. And then the next kind of level down are those who will only eat kosher meat. They might go out and they might keep vegetarian when they go out, but the meat that they're going to eat is kosher. I want to look now actually at the question of why is it that even among the high treif, pork is considered kind of the most non-kosher food that you can eat. Now, I used to love bacon when I ate non-kosher food, but there was always I would eat anything, right? I would eat cheeseburgers. I would eat, I would eat lobster, and I never felt guilty about it. But there's something about the Jewish consciousness that makes eating pork feel a little bit different if you do keep kosher. And it might be because it's so ingrained within the Jewish culture. Now, there's very little that distinguishes Jews from non-Jews in antiquity. And by antiquity, I'm talking about the time of the Bible. But one of the things that you knew that a group was Jewish, let's say, because in ancient Israel, the Jewish encampments would be right next to the Philistine encampments. So when archaeologists go in and they look, they dig around, and what they actually find is that, there's slight differences in Jewish pottery from Philistine pottery or Akkadian pottery or Midianite pottery. But Jews are the only enclave where you can't find pig bones. And that actually is how you know that that is a non-Jewish encampment and how you know that it's a Jewish encampment. Archaeologists look for evidence of pig bones. So I guess there were a lot of pigs in antiquity in Israel. And if you found an encampment that had no pig bones, you could be relatively sure if you found nothing else, no pottery that was marked with Jewish stars or anything like that, that encampment was Jewish. Now, the rabbis write a lot about, what exactly is wrong with pigs? And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this one important teaching about pigs, and talk about it in light of, in light of the decisions to keep kosher in general. Because the rabbis put forth this teaching, which says, why are pigs so bad? And the reason is, they say, because in order to be a kosher animal, you need cloven hooves like this, right? And you need an animal that chews its cud, that has multiple stomachs. Have you ever seen a cow? A cow will swallow, it'll digest, it'll burp it back up, it'll chew some more, and then it'll swallow, right? That's what chewing its cud means. And for an animal to be kosher, an animal needs to chew its cud and have cloven hooves. Now, there are some animals that only fall into one of those categories, and pigs only fall into one of those categories. Pigs have cloven hooves, but they don't chew their cud. Now, one would think that because a pig has 50% of what makes something kosher, the pig should actually be more kosher than, say, an animal like a bear that doesn't have either, right? But what you find that the rabbis say is that a pig, when he lies down in mud, presents his cloven hooves as if to trick you into believing that he is kosher. And they use that as a teaching to talk about evidence of hypocrisy. And for some reason, Jews have understood the character, the personified image of the pig as being the image of hypocrisy. Now, this question of authenticity, of who you are, actually is profoundly important. The rabbis say that, by the way, when Aaron and his sons would open up the ark to go into the holies of holies, the ark was overlaid with gold on the inside and gold on the outside. It says it very clearly in the Torah. Now, why gold on the inside and gold on the outside? Because unlike the pig, the goal of each of us is to have our insides to match our outsides, to not be hypocrites, but in fact, to live an authentic and to live a sincere life. Now, that's really hard to do. And hypocrisy is something that I think is thrown around a little bit too much in our day. We're all worried about being hypocrites. And in fact, we often point to politicians and we call them hypocritical as well. Now, there clearly are politicians who are hypocritical. If you pass a law that you then do not follow, that is hypocrisy. But we often think of someone who changes direction, who what we call flip-flopping, as being hypocritical as well. We see them as having their insides not match their outsides, as presenting to the world something that they don't truly enact on their own. But the truth is, actually, there are two ways to flip-flop. There is a good way and there is a bad way. A bad way to flip-flop is this convenient for me? Therefore, I'm going to tell you that I believe one thing and tell you you can't do it, and I'm going to pass a law that says that you can't, and then I'm going to change my mind because it's convenient for me. That is hypocritical. But if you actually come to change in an authentic way, if there is a catalyst that makes you think differently, if there's a way that you can say, mea culpa, I was wrong with my previous view, and instead I'm going to move toward a right approach, that's not hypocrisy. In fact, that's integrity. That is change done well. Boundary making is really difficult. And to the outside observer, it might look like someone is acting one way and then doing the exact opposite in another way. But circumstances often dictate that we have to relook at things, and that the way that we might approach, say, whether we should put our parents in a nursing home, or whether we should give charity, or how we should behave to the stranger, in a different circumstance, in different times, even months or years later, we're allowed to change our mind. We're allowed to move, and to not be called that hypocrite. To not say that we've led in one direction, we presented to the world, as the pig does, one move, even though secretly we're holding on to something else. But boundary making is difficult. And I remember one of the first things that someone once kind of accused me of when I started keeping kosher, like as a kid, was they actually said to me, isn't it hypocritical that you keep kosher in your house, but you don't keep kosher out of your house? Now, at this point, I keep kosher out of my house and in my house. But back in that day, I didn't fully have an answer for them. Here is the answer. Boundary making is difficult. And whenever you're deciding what to do about your Jewish practice and what to do in your ethical life, You're going to have to draw lines. The keys in drawing those lines is to be able to defend them in such a way that you feel like you haven't corrupted the system in which you are bought into. It is hypocritical to say, I keep kosher in my house, but when I go outside of my house, it's a pain, so I'm now going to eat. That's hypocritical. It is not hypocritical to say, my house is a certain kind of boundary for myself, and therefore, I'm willing to understand that there is symbolism in keeping a kosher home that falls away the minute I walk outside of the home. And I'm not keeping kosher because I don't want to eat these foods. I'm keeping kosher in my house because I want my house to symbolize and stand for something. And that something is tied to Jewish practice. You notice the nuance there when I explained it? Hypocritical would be to do what you want at your whim. Boundary making and shifting those boundaries with true intention, as Lisa Westreich wrote in our chat, that's not hypocritical. That, as I said before, is sincere. That is integrity. We need to live our lives with boundaries that may not appear clear at the outset to the observer, but we don't live our lives for the observer. We live our lives for ourselves. And if the boundary makes sense to us, if it adds meaning to us, who cares if at first glance it doesn't make sense to someone? We have to avoid hypocrisy. We have to be careful about presenting one thing to the world and then just acting differently. But the truth is, if you can be sincere about the boundaries that you make, if you can understand that you should always look at those boundaries and you're allowed to change your mind, if you understand that those boundaries might seem arbitrary to somebody else, but they matter to you, you'll be living the authentic, ethical, ritual, and moral life that you need to in this complicated world. The outside, the other, the thing that is not you, is actually really hard to navigate. And the world is so intensely complex that there are no easy answers. Philosophers have tried. Kant, for example, has what's called the deontological the deontological categorical imperative, where he basically says it's never okay to lie. Well, it doesn't really work in our era with blurred boundaries and figuring that out. There's a whole nother school called consequentialists that basically say, like, you should maximize the good or the pleasure at the end. And whatever does that, that's how you can make your decisions. Well, the world's a little too complicated for simple rules. Our lives are made with shifting and blurry boundaries. And as long as you can explain with true love and true intention why you've chosen what you've chosen, then no one has a right to call you a hypocrite. And so do that. Make your boundaries. Be sure in them. And then question them again. Move them and shift them. But never stop asking those questions. Shabbat Shalom. So we're going to move now to page 282 as together we rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
We move forward 5 pages in our prayer book.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
We're seated together. We turn now to page 294, and our thoughts turn to those that we've loved and we've lost. This Shabbat, we recall the following individuals: Henry Abrams, Louis Abramson, Samuel Berger, Samuel Cohen, Moishe Ehrlich, Lake Epstein, Thomas Fitzgerald, Yetta Friedman, John Gary, Ruth Getzov, Herman Gutman, Phyllis Gutterman, Harriet Hennig, Mark Hoffman, Joseph Jacobs, Keza Kalmeyer, Molly Kaplan, Morris Korn, Martha Lazar, Milton Lee, Gerald Lankowitz, Leon Levoff, Yetta Mandelkern, Rebecca Marcus, David Marion, Jacob Nyworth, Martha Newman, Richard Penny, Harry Rabinowitz, Erna Reisner, Benjamin Ruth, Saul Ring, Shauna Rosenberg, David Schechner, Antonia Schubert, Maddie Shapiro, Alice Scholler, Leslie Smith, Carol Spencer, Benjamin Statmauer, Mary Stoltzberg, Robert Thomas, Frida Tilkin, Deborah Kaner, Weiderbaum, Rosalind Wellner, Samson Weiner, and Albert Yurkowitz. And those who are in their Shiva and Shloshim periods of mourning: David Spencer, brother of Helen Spencer Snyder; Richard Cassell, brother of Jack Cassell; Violet Lavenda, mother of Diane Lavenda; Neil Robert Elson, brother of Linda Indek; Edith Shavat, mother of Carrie Shavat; Michael Kahn, father of Gregory Kahn; and Richard Nealis, brother of Sharon Rosen. And though he's not been laid to rest yet, and information will be coming about when the funeral is, we've not yet set it, I announce the death of George Vago, father of Michelle Vago, who will be laid to rest sometime in the coming days, and we'll find information about Shiva then. So with that, I'll invite us once again to add names of people that were either mourning that were not on this list, or people that are within the first year of mourning. As together, I'll invite us to rise and turn to page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayed d'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'gala v'izman kariv v'imru amin. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei omaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata tamiram b'yama v'imru amin. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amin. Oseh shalom b'ramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru. Amen. Please be seated. So before we move into our closing song, just a few announcements for you about upcoming events. As I said, next week we are piloting our Friday night services outdoors. And so you can sign up. Here's how it's going to work. We're going to release the registration every week at the beginning of the week, probably on Monday. In this particular case, it'll be as soon as the email goes out. Feel free. There's 30 slots. As levels lower in New Jersey, we'll add more slots. We're going to start small for the first couple weeks. If you went to services on a given week, what we'll just ask is that you wait until like Thursday night before you register, to give those who might have gotten locked out of the service the week before to get a chance to register. And then if there's still room, we would love to see you week after week after week if it turns out that it's a small enough group that becomes regulars. But it's important that we give people a chance to sign up who may not have been able to, or who might fully be vaccinated and decide to come. You, by the way, do not have to be vaccinated to come. We're going to keep social distancing and make sure that that people are masked, so that way you can feel comfortable no matter what. Tomorrow morning, Torah study is going to be led by by Rick Abrams. And then we're really excited that Olivia is going to become bat mitzvah. And so once again, feel free to put in, anything in the chat, wishing her congratulations. Sunday morning, we're excited to be having Mohammed Darwishi come and be in conversation with Jody Rudoran. Mohammed is an activist in Israel and a really wonderful speaker. Jody is one of the best interviewers in the Jewish world, and we're blessed to have her as a member of our congregation. And so that's at 11 a.m. We're excited. It's going to be a very full house virtually, and it should be wonderful. And then on Monday, April 12th, we've got a really great conversation with our congregational nurse Karen Frank, together with a number of other people who are kind of experts in the field of elder care, and helping people deal with what it means to be a caregiver with an open heart. And so if you're caring for someone, or you may be caring for someone, this is a really great thing to come to. And again, April 13th, Rosh Chodesh, hopefully you can make that. And any number of events that you can find on our website and our e-blast. I want to highlight just two others for you. The first is a reminder, our big spring fundraiser is going to be a 5K run walk. You can walk it very slow if you want. I'm going to be pushing a stroller. So come, it's going to be May 23rd in the morning, and then it's going to be followed by a mitzvah day. It's the last day of religious school. It's also the last day of Iris being the head of our religious school. So you can, even if you're not going to come for the mitzvah day, come say hi to Iris and to say thank you for all that she's done. And the other thing that I'll say is that you'll be getting a word pretty soon about a blood drive that we're going to be doing at our congregation. Our beloved Fred Preston passed away a year ago at the end of this month. And so on May 18th, in his memory, we're going to be having the Fred Preston Memorial Blood Drive. Freddie died of leukemia, and there's a severe shortage of blood in New Jersey, and leukemia patients need blood more than almost any other cancer patient. And so please consider giving. It's going to be open to our community only for the first couple weeks of registration, and then it's going to open up to the general group. And because of COVID and there haven't really been that many blood drives around here, I think it's going to fill up in 2 seconds once it opens up to everybody. So make sure to get on it quickly. We're going to put it in the eGarrett for the first time next week. So if you want to give, that way you don't get locked out. And yes, Harvey was always the one who organized our blood drives for years and years. And so this is also a little bit in his memory too. So with that, Kendra, did I forget anything that you wanted to say?
No, that was wonderful. And the more that we get to see one another in real space, the better. So we just look forward to having more and more of these chances to be with one another.
And as a teaser, our Casual Minion's going to come back in a few weeks, and that's going to be in person, and any number of other things too. So, yeah.
All right. Friends, we're going to end our tefillah tonight with the last few words of Adon Olam, really allowing ourselves to feel that kind of surrender, especially when we are making changes in our life, transitions, and it's intimidating because we know that we hold the judge very, very front and center in our heads, many of us. So we say, Biyado av kidruchi, it's in your hands, God, that we're just gonna let ourselves feel your love and your care. Biyado av kidruchi, v'yedishan v'ya'ira, mehi bruchi gefiati, Adonai li v'lo ira, mehi bruchi gefiati, Adonai li v'lo ira. My soul I give to you, my spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Hold me in your safely in your care. Shabbat shalom, everybody.